Well, good morning, friends. It's Thursday again, and I have a story for you today that is from the book of Acts. It's in chapter 20. As usual, I hope that you'll go back and you'll look at that at some point today and read the story for yourself to see all of the details. All right, so this story today is set in the town of Troas, and from what I can tell, it looks like Troas is in Macedonia. You can even look at today's map and see where Macedonia is because it hasn't moved. And it is considered, it has a country of that name. It hasn't always had that name. It's a little bit north and east of Greece. And it is, Macedonia is the first place that Paul took the gospel to Europe. All right, so this is a story about a man. A lot of people say he was a young man. His name was Eutychus, Eutychus, Eutychus. And it was Paul's last day in the town of Troas. It was Sunday. They had gathered together to break bread because they celebrated the Lord's Supper every week. And because Paul was going to be leaving the next day, he took that opportunity to talk a long time. I would say he probably has preacheritis because most of us who are teachers and preachers, we kind of like to hear ourselves talk, and we want to be sure that we get everything said that we possibly can. And that is kind of what Paul seems to be doing, and that's I think that's amusing that he was like that. So it was Sunday night. They were all gathered together in this room. It happened to be on the third floor of a building. The Bible says that they had a lot of lamps lit for light, and that probably caused a lot of heat. You know, you get into a room and you got a lot of bodies in it, and you got lamps, then yep, it gets warm. So Eutychus was sitting in the window, and I imagine he was sitting in the window to catch whatever breeze might be coming in. And maybe it was the only seat in the house that was available. So he is lounging there in the window while Paul is talking. And Paul continued to talk until midnight. Now, I turn into a pumpkin at about 9 o'clock at the latest. So me sitting up and listening to somebody preach and teach until midnight, I'm going to have a hard time keeping my eyes open that late. And apparently Eutychus was having a problem too. Undoubtedly the heat in the room didn't help with that situation. And essentially he couldn't keep his eyes open any longer, and he fell asleep sitting there in the window. Well, he fell out of the window. Did you remember that? Did you remember this story from the Bible that this boy, this young man, this man fell out of the window, the third floor, and hit the ground? And he died. Now, there are probably some people out there who will say, oh, he may have just knocked himself out. Because Paul says oh, don't worry, the life is still in him. And that would make you think that maybe he was just knocked out. And, you know, anything is possible, but ancient people knew dead. They slaughtered their animals to eat them. They were present when their relatives died. They knew dead. So if they say that the boy was dead, I think he was. And that makes this story one of Paul's miracles, because Paul was able to bring the boy back to life. I think this is about the last of the miracles that you see in the book of Acts, because it is very close to the end of the book. And the last verse of this actual story says that Paul left the next morning and the people were not a little bit comforted. Not a little comforted. Understatement of the year. I think that all of us today would have been certainly awed. I can't even come up with the emotions that we would feel if we had a miracle like that worked within our midst. Just can't even imagine. Now, I do think that miracles continue today. I have read stories of miracles in third world countries, but they don't seem to happen around here very much. So that's the story of Eutychus and how Eutychus fell out the window. And it's funny. And if you need a children's sermon sometime, that's a good story to tell your children because they will Twitter. They think that that's really funny. And you know what? I do too. So I hope that you have a great Thursday, that you have a really good weekend. April Fool's Day is Saturday. Sunday is Palm Sunday. We are very, very quickly moving toward Easter. I hope that you will all experience Easter blessings over the next week. And I'll see you again next Thursday. And next Thursday will be April the 6th, which is Maundy Thursday. If you have a place to go that night, you ought to go. It's a good night to be in the church. So I hope you have a great time. I will see you next week. Goodbye.